Today we're in Southampton and welcome to this special version of Question Time. Good afternoon to you in the audience and to the lecturer out there. I'd also like to welcome my panel, who we have our very own Home Secretary to discuss immigration, Theresa May. I'd also like to welcome the Foreign Secretary to discuss all things EU, William Hague. Finally, the Secretary for Work and Pensions to discuss the benefits system, Mr. Ian Duncan-Smith. Finally, I'd like to extend a warm welcome to our own Politics and International Relations course rep, Ms. Lucinda Taylor. Before we begin with questions from the audience, I'd like to turn to Lucinda to find out why this is a special version of Question Time.
Thank you, Stuart. This special episode of Question Time is in relation to a piece of research that was conducted where the research group was asked to what extent do politicians discuss immigration, the European Union and the benefits system, and when they talk about them, what aspects of these large subject areas are actually spoken about.
Right. What was the rationale behind this research project?
Well, the rationale of the research was to enhance the understanding about the work of the elected representatives and to investigate whether the populist assertion that these three subject areas are actually spoken about is true or false. The research has also been done for many reasons, but one is to provide a basis for informed debate about how these issues are perceived and dealt with by politicians.
What method was used in the research?
Well, the method used to conduct this research was discourse content analysis. The group created a coding guide to aid organisation and analysis of the data, and then what followed was an extensive reading through all of the Hansard Society records for the calendar year 2012. I can assure you that this was a lengthy process, but to quickly note, the Hansard Society transcribes every parliamentary session so that the public can find out what is being discussed, and this was what was analysed by the researchers.
Method sounds pretty intense. Were there many limitations?
Yes. During the research, limitations that the group came across were a variety of different things. Communication breakdown when sometimes two members were found performing the same task. This can often be the case with a group of 11 members. The group dynamics were interesting and sometimes troublesome, as there were strong characters battling out for leadership, and others who were happy to sit back and wait and to be told what to do. Also, with this type of research, which was discourse content analysis, is often subjective because of the interpretation one person may have will likely differ to that of another, and so some pieces of data may have been incorrectly coded or missed altogether. This occurs mainly because some researchers' thoroughness is more so than others. Naturally, the research wasn't perfectly done, but we all agree it went very well and to a high standard at the least.
Thanks, Lucinda. Now we're going to take some questions from the audience, and the first one is from Josh Agar, I believe.
Thank you, David. I have a question for Mr. Ian Duncan-Smith. Are MPs talking about benefits, and if so, what type of MPs and on what topics in particular?
Right, well, firstly, yes, politicians are discussing the benefits system, quite extensively in fact. There were over 1,600 occurrences of such discussion recorded in 2012, and considering that the House of Commons is only in session for 143 days in the year, that averages at 11 items per day, which is very good news. Secondly, welfare reforms are being discussed within debates, accounting for almost a fifth of total discussions about benefits. Also, research shows that 70% of the Prime Minister's personal contributions to discussion about benefits are concerning welfare reform, which, as we know, is a very hot topic in benefits at the moment.
Yeah, I do. I'm curious as to who's actually talking about it. Are the ministers that can do something actually discussing it?
Well, as you'd expect, backbenchers do bring up these topics more than any other type of politician in the House of Commons. However, it's good to see that over a third of all input has also come from frontbenchers and ministers, showing that actually they do take these issues very seriously and want to make a positive change.
I have a question for Mr. William Hague about the European Union. I'm from Austria, and I was wondering whether the British government actually discusses the EU.
Well, the research conducted has generated strong evidence that politicians do discuss the EU. 1,903 individual mentions were recorded for 2012, the majority of which came from written questions and answers, but perhaps most importantly, there were over 400 debates on the European Union. This shows MPs do not shy away from dealing with numerous issues relating to the EU, and especially the Prime Minister, who had over half of all his contributions relating to topics regarding the EU.
Do other departments, apart from the Foreign Office, discuss the EU, and what topics are discussed?
The Foreign and Home Offices are unsurprisingly the most popular departments to discuss the EU, but also the Treasury, the Department for Business, Innovation and Skills, the Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs. They also featured highly in dealing with EU-related issues. To answer your other question, there are a wide variety of issues discussed. The most common ones were topics relating to budgeting and economic issues, agriculture, the environment, energy, law, justice and human rights. So as you can see, the wide range of topics discussed demonstrates that MPs are keen to deal with numerous issues that are a part of the UK-EU relationship, and often they come in a foreign policy context.
Thanks very much, William. Now, does anyone in the audience have any questions for the Home Secretary?
Yeah, I've got a question. I'm wondering why politicians aren't openly discussing immigration in the House of Commons.
In fact, they are. There have been over 300 instances of immigration, either as oral questions, answers, or debates in the House of Commons last year. The main source of discussion, in fact, over 60% has come from written questions and answers. So if MPs are not seen opening debates on immigration in the House of Commons, it may be because most debates have been happening in writing.
Okay, well, if politicians are bringing up immigration issues, who is doing so, and what are they talking about, and what aren't they talking about?
The majority of MPs raising these issues are backbenchers, which is to be expected. But almost a quarter of all contributions were made by the opposition frontbench, so the Labour Party. However, the party with the most contributions was the Conservative Party. However, this was to be expected as they have the most seats in Parliament. And in reference to your second query, the most discussed topics were asylum seekers and refugees, border security checks and controls, and human trafficking, which equated to 28% of all data collected. On the other hand, the least common topics were integration and attitudes, which is disappointing as this is clearly a critical area within the immigration dialogue.
Thanks very much, Teresa. I'm afraid that's all the time we have for today, so thank you in the lecture, thanks to the lovely audience here, and especially to my panel. Until next time, goodbye. I'm smiling.
Oh no! Oh, Stuart.
Who are you again?
William Hague. Bill Hague.
Billy Hague.